morning, everyone.
Morning.
Katie, maybe you can tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, so today we'll be talking about one of the first questions that we address in our initial inventor interview. This is regarding inventorship. So we will discuss what qualifies as someone being an inventor and what qualifies under inventorship. We will also be discussing the AI portion that faces many of our clients when they are conceiving and inventing ideas. We will be discussing the automation bias regarding inventorship and how AI can sometimes inflict on the inventor's ability to claim inventorship.
Yeah, probably it's a good idea to start with a short definition from the manual for patent examination procedure, MPEP, to see what the manual is actually telling us inventorship is. So Emily, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
So in section 2109 of the MPEP, paragraph 2 defines an inventor. Says that an inventor must contribute to the conception of the invention, and it specifically says that the definition for inventorship can be simply stated: the threshold question in determining inventorship is who conceived the invention. Unless a person contributes to the conception of the invention, he is not an inventor.
What conception of an invention is, as opposed to having a broad idea and maybe in relation to embodiments that have to develop later or reduction to practice of that invention. So yeah, maybe Francis, you can comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, so as Emily mentioned, like the core question of inventorship is who conceived the invention, who contributed to the conception of the actual invention. So yeah, as Mr. Chalka mentioned, we all have a lot of big ideas, but unless you can actually like hone it down to something that's utilizable to actually get to a solution, it's not really a patent. It has to actually be like a controlled kind of concept. So essentially, conception kind of breaks down like solving the small problems that lead to the overall solution. So examples are actually like steps of like a programming process that might be utilized to actually get you from raw inputs to an actual process solution would be what you'd actually have for conception overall. So it doesn't necessarily need to be reduced to practice to contribute to actual inventorship, though you will need to reduce the practice prior to actual filing. I actually utilize technicians and potentially AI for assisting within the actual reduction of practice. But as the inventor that contributes to conception, you need to remain in possession of the overall invention. You can't allow the AI or a technician to contribute to conception, as that's your responsibility as an inventor.
To maybe summarize a little bit there. So if you just have a broad idea, right, or maybe you identify a problem and you see it, you say, wow, this is a problem, this needs to be solved, and maybe you have an idea, very, very broad idea on how that could be solved, you are probably not an inventor yet, right? You are not an inventor because ideas are not patentable under US patent law. You need to progress from there into the conception phase where you need to conceive that solution to the problem now, maybe in some general terms, but you need to have some conception of how that solution might look like. If it's a mechanical device, you might need to have some concept, maybe you sketch them out on how that mechanical structure of that mechanical device might look like. So at that stage, you probably become an inventor. Of course, you might need to continue development of that invention and work on the details, what we call reduction to practice, right? At least on paper, in order to file for a patent. Or maybe you may build an actual physical prototype, which, by the way, is not required under US patent law, but you may build a physical prototype if you want. And you might want to test that, and you may get help in that process. The question is, if the help you get from technical experts or from AI, the question is if AI or the technical expert could eventually become a co-inventor of your invention. And that could be a problem, and maybe we can look at some examples, and maybe Matt can help us
Yeah.
here a little bit.
Yeah, so some examples of relying on like technical experts or AI to perform tasks for you that may help you in patent prosecution, but do not threaten your status as an inventor, do not threaten the conception that you had of the invention, your possession of this invention. The most straightforward example, if you have a prototype in or an idea for a prototype, how the various components for a mechanical device are arranged to perform your desired function, you have a drawing of that. You could give that to somebody else, to an AI, a technical expert, and have them build it for you. And while they have like done the legwork of building the prototype, they obviously did not do any of the cognitive labor in the conception of the invention itself. Um, Maybe a more analogous for AI specifically would be if you type in a description of your invention, how the components are arranged, what each one of them does, and you ask AI, could you create for me a diagram of this? Again, it did not have it play any role in your coming up with this invention, even though it performed some legwork of maybe creating a professional drawing for you. Um, I think maybe a good heuristic that Francis has told me in the past is if the question you're asking AI or a technical expert is capable of standing on its own, it's a good indication that it's not related to the conception of the idea. So, for example, let's say you have an idea for a mechanical device and you want it to be functional at a specific temperature. You already understand how the components are going to be arranged, but now you're just maybe looking for a material that some or all of the components could be made from to make it operable at a different temperature range. You could ask, yeah, what materials have parameters which would allow them to be functional at specific temperature ranges. And that's a question you can ask in a vacuum. It makes sense. And you're effectively just searching for scientific information which is already present and does not, again, relate to the actual arrangement of the components. Um, where it would get difficult or where it would get problematic and perhaps threaten your status as an inventor is when you merely come to the AI with a general problem statement or a general description of desired functionality. Hey, I'm looking to build a software which predicts the stock price. How could that be built? That's a statement of desired functionality. There's no discussion of how this is going to actually predict a stock price.
We have made a previous video where we warn the users of AI about confidentiality and public disclosure of the invention. So we just want to remind the viewers, the listeners of that risk, right? So when we talk about using AI to ask for example, for a technical information, we presume they are using an AI tool that is giving you confidentiality and data security guarantees. So just be mindful of that when you use AI to develop your invention. Make sure you use AI tools that are confidential and they then use your data to train or disclose to other AI users, because that could be a public disclosures. You can ask AI or a technical expert for a technical question, right? In a similar fashion that you will do some kind of a scientific research, right? Also, I think Matthew was saying, if you have, let's say we are talking about a medical device and the structure, you conceive the structure, but you ask AI or a mechanical engineer perhaps to draw it for you, to put it together, but you tell the AI or the engineer how to build it. That's fine, right? You are still in control. You conceive your device and you're in control of that process. You give clear instructions to the AI tool or to the mechanical engineer to build it for you. You are still the inventor. But now if you go to the AI or the mechanical engineer and tell them, hey, I have this idea about this device that could work that way, but I don't know how this will look like, how the structure will be. Can you give me some suggestions, some ideas on how this structure will look like? Now that is a problem, right? We all agree with that, probably, that that's a problem. And now the engineer or the AI tool could be the actual inventor, and you may not be an inventor at all at the end. So that's a big potential problem.
One thing that inventors should try to keep in mind is that they should try to do as much of that sort of cognitive work on their own as possible before going to the AI. So you want to be sure that you're in total possession of your invention, that you are actually fulfilling what the deal is that you're making with the US government, is that you're teaching everybody how to practice your invention in exchange for the government is going to protect you from competition. So that means you need to actually be able to teach your invention, not the AI. That means that by the time you go to the AI, you're just asking AI maybe for some smaller details, things that don't impact whether or not your invention works. You have to have that idea to make that invention work. The danger of letting the AI become the inventor rather than yourself. The second thing with AI, using AI, is we've discussed a little bit, here, this idea of automation bias, which is this tendency for people to trust the machine, thinking that it's smarter, that it's an expert. And that's a tendency that also, as an inventor, you're going to have to fight when you use AI, because the AI is going to, spit out some answers, and you're going to be like, oh, that's great. That's cool. That sounds good. But you have to always remember that, especially now with AI still kind of in an infant stage, it's wrong a lot of times. It makes mistakes. It hallucinates. So you have to use your judgment, and as well, you have to trust your patent practitioner's judgment really more than you do AI. In the same way, for example, you need to trust your medical professional more than going to an AI and asking it to diagnose you and how is the best way to treat you. You still need the medical expertise. Like you might, trust some AI agent to schedule your appointments for you, maybe handle the billing and coding and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe even, do the intake and all of that. But I think a lot of us would really hesitate to trust an AI to actually perform surgery on you, actually do the important risky part. And same thing goes with patent applications. So, you can do some things with AI, but you still really need to put most of your trust for the risky things, like the actual patent, application process drafting, in the hands of a patent practitioner, because the patent practitioner is going to have the professional judgment to know how to treat your specific invention, just like a medical professional will have the judgment and the experience to know how to treat an individual person who is going to be unique. And by definition, your invention is unique. So you need somebody with experience and judgment to be able to do the process right so that you have success in the end. If you do it wrong, it's going to cost you a lot of time and money. So, you have to be very, very careful of AI. In my experience, what I've seen when inventors have relied a bit too much on AI is, they will give us some big invention disclosure with a lot of words, but not the right kinds of details. And it actually creates a lot more work for us. And so, not only in this conception phase, in the developing your idea phase, but later on, because it naturally leads to you asking the AI to actually write up your ideas. I see how these general AI, sort of public open AI systems, they they just give you what you want, right? Not necessarily what's correct. And we talk a little bit about hallucinations. I've seen it, it just, there'll be things that are just completely wrong. So you'll ask it for a detail maybe, to help you with your invention, and it'll just spit out something that's completely wrong. And if you trust it, then you're going to be in trouble. So, so be very, very careful. All of the thinking part, you should still be doing yourself as an inventor.
Summarize here, and I think we said it in the one of our prior videos, we are not against AI, right? We AI can be used, but has to be used cautiously, right? Because you don't want AI to be a co-inventor, right? That's the point we are trying to make here. Don't make the AI the co-inventor, or possibly the sole inventor of your invention, number one. Number two, when you use it for research, for scientific research, which is okay, even then you need to be careful of hallucination, right? Because maybe you ask for that temperature of that material, which is okay. The AI will not be an inventor, but unfortunately, you cannot be 100% sure that that information is correct, as we see that right now, right? Regarding AI capabilities at this point, the temperature could be wrong, so you may want to double check that, right, on a third-party reference, maybe a link the AI provides, and it's a third-party reliable scientific journal website, and they confirm that temperature. Then you are okay. But you need to be able to evaluate what the AI says, because AI can hallucinate, so professional judgment is still needed. So yourself and your patent practitioner that represents you have to look at that, and together probably you can clean it up. But just having something spit out by AI and filing with the patent office, we probably all agree that that's going to be a higher risk. Advise against it. The risk is just too high at this point with the AI capabilities that are currently. We hope this helps. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.